Hi, today we're going to be talking about articulations. Articulations are a very important part of music that's going to add to our expressiveness of playing. Let's start by taking a look here at this presentation that I got going on, and we'll talk through it. So, articulations. The word articulation has many different meanings. As we see here, it talks about just a part of speech and how we can speak more clearly. Topic number 2 is where we're of course going to focus the clarity and production of successive notes in music, and it also has things to do in anatomy, but we're going to be talking about how it applies to music, of course. So here's my definition. This is the D.W. Dave Withrow articulations definition related to music. It's a set of shapes that we attach above or below notes, and it's going to have an effect on these three pieces of the note. The beginning, called the attack of the note, or the middle, the held out part, called the sustain, or the end of the note, called the release. The attack, sustain, and release. Here is just a small look at some of the things that we can use for articulations. I'm going to get out of the menu so I have a pointer here. These little dots are above or below notes, one of the most common ones called staccatos. We'll get into that a little more later. My drummer friends see these accents all the time. Once again, we'll take a look at these symbols a little more in depth as we get on to the rest of the presentation. All right, the very first thing is a lot of times you're going to see a note that doesn't have any articulation on it at all. And you need to know how to attack that note, how to make it begin. Different instruments do different things. You wind players, you hear us talk about tonguing all the time. Us drummer friends, we hit drums in certain ways. If I was teaching orchestra, we'd be talking about bowing. But the beginning of that note is a very important thing. Different music teachers are going to have you say different syllables for different reasons. For right now, we're going to use the syllable da. So if we saw a bunch of quarter notes, we would say da, 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 da. This next thing, it's called a tie. A tie is this curved line. Once again, here's another DW definition. A tie is a curved line that connects two adjacent notes of the same pitch. Their rhythmic values are added together. That's a mouthful, so let's take it apart. A curved line. There it is. There's that curved line. It connects two and only two notes. They have to be right beside each other. That's what adjacent means. And they have to be of the same pitch. They have to be, in this case, on the same space or on the same line. If there's more than two notes connected by a curved line, it's not a tie. If they're on different lines or spaces, it's not a tie. This is more of a rhythmic thing. It adds these notes into one. Without this tie, if there were just two quarter notes here, we would say da, da. With the tie, it's going to sound like a half note. Da. It looks like two notes, but it's really only one note. The next curved line, this is called a slur. A slur, once again, it's a curved line. It's going to connect two or more notes, and they can be of any pitch. So here we see it's connecting three notes together, but even if it just connected these first two, the fact that they're on different lines and spaces would make it be a slur. Now, what you were probably taught as a younger student is, well, attack the first note as normal, but then just don't tongue. That works if you're a wind player, but I would like this to be all-inclusive to my drummer friends, and once again, if I was teaching orchestra, our definition is going to be normal attack and then play in a smooth and connected fashion. For most of you wind players, you won't tongue on these slurred notes, but trombone players, you do have to tongue there, just the way your instrument works, just lighter. So we would say something like this. Do, where I kept my wind going the whole time. I didn't re-tongue here without the slurs. Da, 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 with the slurs. Do. If you're a trombone player, you do have to tongue there, but lighter. Do, 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 just to make your trombone sound correct and the notes come out. Once again, you want to be as smooth and connected as you can on these slurs. The next one, this is one of the very, very common ones that band kids see a lot, and really all musicians see a lot. It's the dot that's above or below a note. I want you to know it's called a staccato. I know a lot of you kids tell me, hey, I know what it means, but I want you to know the right word too, because that's how we're going to communicate when we talk about music. A staccato tells you to play in a detached and separated fashion. So instead of, let's say we didn't have this staccato here, we would play this quarter note. Da, da, da. With the staccato, it's going to shorten it up. It's going to change that length. Dit, 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 dit. Changes the spaces between the notes. The next most common one in my mind is called the tenuto, which literally means to hold out, to hug, or legato, smooth. It's this little dash symbol that could go below the note head or once again above, and it tells you to play in a long, smooth fashion, slightly different than a slur though. You're still going to hear the attacks at the beginning of each note, and for our purposes, we're going to say the syllable do. Do, 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 do. Very smooth and connected. This sidewards V, above or below the note, it's called an accent, and those notes should be louder than the surrounding notes. A forceful, strong attack. My drummer brothers and sisters know to help make that accent be louder, keep the other notes around it a little softer. We're going to use a very forceful attack in our syllables. Ta, 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 ta. So if I'm a drummer and I have 16th notes with accents at the beginning of each beat, it's going to sound something like this. Ta 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 ta. You can really hear those beats pop out with the accent on it. Another of the very common ones. It's another V-looking thing, except this points up and down. And if you compare them, this is more of a bold kind of V, and it points up, or it could point down. It's called a marcato. Separated and heavily accented. This is a fun one we do in band class. It's a heavy accent. Dot, 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 do, dot, dot. So there's an example of how marcatos can really make that music really pop. As we get more advanced, here we're going to start seeing how we start combining them together. Here's an accent and a staccato. Here is this one always blew my mind there. If you look real close, there's a legato thing and there's a staccato thing. This is called legato tongued. And we'll talk more about these more advanced ones. Marcato staccato, if you look very closely in there. A marcatissimo. We won't get into these as much, but there's more combinations out there. If you remember seeing that palette that I showed at the beginning of this presentation, there's a lot of these. All right, this slide, this is a great visual representation of how these will sound. You know, the beginnings of the notes, the sustain, the attack, the sustain and the release of the notes, staccatos, dit, 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 dit. We hear those spaces in between. Agogic accents, that just means strong on the beat accents. We see that the beginning, the attack of the note is much more forceful. There's that regular amount of sustain with a little bit of separation. Ta, 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 ta. Here's those tenutos where the attack is just normal. We try to hold those notes as long as possible in a smooth fashion. Do, 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 do. So here's my fun, colorful little picture. Articulations are going to make your music more expressive. That's what I'm talking about. And you can make your own squawk sound here. All right, let's jump out of this. Let's take a look at a few examples here. So, in review, we can have notes that don't have any articulations on them. You just want a normal attack. Make sure you're doing your tonguing if you're a wind player. If you're a violinist or any other string player, you're going to do your bow attacks, up and down strokes. Da, 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 da. Here we have that curved line that connects two adjacent notes of the same pitch whose rhythmic value is added together, the tie. Instead of playing two quarter notes, this is going to sound like one note. Da. Once again, we see an example here that has no articulations on it. Da, da, da. Here we have a curved line that connects two different notes, even though they're right beside each other and they're not on the same line in space. So this is a slur. Normal attack here, as smooth as possible here. Back to normal attack on this next note that is not slurred. Da, 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 da. And here's those same three notes with the same rhythm, but now the slur connects more than two notes. Another example of the slur. Normal attack at the beginning, smooth connected fashion all the way through. Da. Once again, let's listen to these three different examples with no articulations, two notes slurred, three notes slurred. Da, 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 da. And one more example, and this comes right out of, if you're in the Riverside High School marching band, this is right out of our maximum strength warm-up playbook. This is the trumpet one part, starts at measure 35. You know, there we see the rhythms, which you better know, because come on, we make you count rhythms a lot. You should know the pitches very easily right now. Come on, you just got to know your pitches. Even over here where you see a natural within a parentheses, just reminding you that over here it was sharped, but now it's back to naturaled. We got flats, we got sharps. Below the staff, we have our dynamics telling us to play softly or loudly, get louder, get softer. But attached to the note heads, we see these little symbols, the legato, tenuto marks, the staccato marks. Here we have some slurs. Do 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 dit 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 do 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 dit 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 do 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 dit 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 do 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 dit 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 do. Clearly I'm a drummer, not a beautiful singer, but you get the idea. As long as we're here and we have a minute, let's go to my articulation tool. Let's look at that palette again. It's a very wide palette. I have a lot of things to choose from to make my music expression very clear. Staccatos, accent, marcato, tenuto, fermata, changes to the length of the note. We have some trill indications. We'll talk more about trills. Here's this thing called a turn. We have it in our music this year. I know we have it in just our regular marching band music and the song Chameleon. I know that some of my clarinet friends who are trying out for honors band, they have that in there. I mentioned if I was teaching orchestra, this would be for our up bows and down bows. My drummer friends see these little slashes to tell us to play different rhythms all the time. So, there is our quick version of how articulations work. Get in there, make your music more expressive. Once again, if you ever have any questions, I would love to help you with music in any way I can.